So in 2 days' time, I'm going to be riding the hardest day out on a bike that I've ever had. It's 100 miles, it's over 5,000 meters of climbing, which is 60% the height of Everest. It's called the Toughest 100, it's in the Peak District, and it's going to be mad. But I'm not here to talk about that ride. I'm here to talk about the bike that I'm going to be using for that ride. And essentially, I'm trying to get any sort of mental or physical gain that I can possibly get. And so I've attempted to build the lightest bike that I can with the parts that I have, and I want to talk to you about it. Okay, so let's kick this off with the frame. So thanks to the guys over at Sigma Sports who have kindly hooked me up with this bike. This is the Specialized Aethos frame. And what Specialized did with this bike was build something that wasn't for the pro peloton, because it's actually really, really light. And that was kind of what they wanted to do. They wanted to make something that was light. They wanted to make something that was comfortable. They basically wanted to make the people's choice of bike frame. I've never ridden one before, but so far my impressions are incredibly good. It is light, we'll talk about that in a minute. Obviously it looks incredibly good. Specialized have always been pretty good with paint jobs, and although this one's not mega exciting, I do personally really like it. But it's also just really responsive. Like, as I've been riding this bike, when you point it in a direction or when you get out of the saddle to move on a climb, it does what you want it to do. It feels responsive, it feels agile. I've actually felt really confident in the corners on this, which is really nice. Obviously, it misses the sort of aero tubing and aero shape of modern sort of do-it-all bikes or aero bikes. But as far as climbing bikes go, it ticks absolutely every single box. So the stock build of this bike came with full Ultegra. It had Roval Alpinist wheels. It had a Specialized 3D printed saddle on there, and it had a Specialized aluminium bar and stem. And even with all of that very stock build, it still weighed a very respectable 7.2 or 7.3 kilos, which, like I said, is super, super light. But I have made some upgrades to this bike because I wanted to make it as light as I possibly could, but still be a rideable, comfortable bike for the 10-hour ride that I'm going to be doing on the weekend. And so let's talk through some of these upgrades. And so the first thing that I did was swap out the wheels. And like I said, I had some Roval Alpinist wheels on there, good wheels, but just a little bit heavy. And what I've put on here are the Far Sports Evo 5S wheels in a 50mm depth. They have carbon spokes. They've got ceramic speed bearings, and all in all, these wheels come in at around 1,200 grams, and so incredibly light for a 50mm depth. And the fact that they have ceramic speed bearings is going to give me a small, very small marginal gain. I could have put something more shallow on here and probably saved a little bit more weight, but I think because this bike isn't aero, the wheels are going to give me a little bit of an aero advantage. And so as a rounded bike, that's not a good phrase, as a well-rounded bike, I think these wheels make a very good choice. I have also paired these with the Continental GP 5000 tyres in a 28mm. These are not the tubeless version. And inside, I have got the Tubolito TPU inner tubes. And so as far as wheels go, in a 50mm depth, I think you'd struggle to get anything lighter. Okay, let's talk about these bars. So these are the sort of all-in-one carbon, you can call them a monocoque, a cockpit, handlebar and stem. But these are called the Paris, and they're from a brand called Avian, who also make the Canary handlebar, maybe if you've heard of that. These are direct from China handlebars. They are unbelievably lightweight. So these come in at about 220 grams for the stem and the handlebar. I have got a 100mm stem and a 36 centimeter wide bar. So pretty narrow, but still incredibly light at 220 grams. The bar is quite flexible. And so if you were a bigger rider, if you did a lot of sprints, it's probably not the bar that you would want to use. But I'm pretty confident it's not just going to snap on me. And so I think for this particular event, this is the right setup. And actually, the ergonomics of the bar are really nice. The finish on it is really nice. I was really happy with how everything came out. Obviously, because this bike's on loan and it's not mine, I've not been able to cut the chimney down. And so you can sort of ignore that. But I think this bike, if you had it slammed with this handlebar on there, it's going to look really, really nice. The bar can accommodate internal cabling, But one of the decisions that Specialized made on this bike, and the crux as well, which to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of, is they've left these cables out. And I think in 2025, as much as it can be a pain, integrated cables just look so good. And so it'd be nice for Specialized to include that in a future revision of this bike. But when it comes to this bike, that is literally my only complaint. Bar tape is just the super CAD stuff that came with the bike. I could probably go lighter there, but I couldn't be bothered. And then the shifters are just the Ultegra shifters. And we've got a carbon fiber mount out the front, which came with the bars. And then of course, I've got the Wahoo Roam 3 on there to finish out the front. I have also replaced the crankset on this bike. So this is the XKD carbon crankset and power meter. One of the things that I have really been wanting to try is 165mm cranks. I've been running them on my Wahoo Kickr Shift, so the indoor bike, and you can adjust the crank length really easily. And I've really been enjoying it. I set my new FTP on that bike, and I've been really wanting to try them outdoors for a long time. And XKD sent me this carbon crankset, and I was able to spec 165mm cranks on there, but it does also save me about 100 grams versus the Ultegra crankset. It's even lighter than a Dura-Ace crankset, and so it's also contributing to the overall weight of this bike, which is lovely. Like I said, it's got an integrated power meter and the spider on this. Supposedly they're really accurate, between plus or minus 1%. And from the sort of couple of rides I've done on this already, it seems pretty accurate to me, to be honest. I've got a 50-34 on there because I need all of the gears that I can possibly get for this ride. And then I've got an 11-34 cassette on the back. So basically I'll have 1-to-1 gearing, which for me is kind of the ideal, I think. If I can have 1-to-1 on a bike, I would choose that over everything else. And so this is just my sort of standard gearing, but I also do quite like doing a lot of climbing, and so it is suited to that. I've got the Look Keo Max pedals on there, not the lightest, but just what I've run for a long time at this point. And then on the back, like I said, it's just an Ultegra cassette. We've got the Ultegra rear mech, and then we've got the discs that came with the Ultegra build as well. And so nothing particularly special going on there. I do think I could save some more weight, obviously with the rear mech, but also with the cassette as well. And that's something that I am going to be trying, but it just hasn't arrived yet. And the same with the discs. I think I could save some weight there, but again, I've not got any of those in stock currently. And then to round things out, I have got the Sella Italia SLR Boost saddle on there. This is the saddle that I've run for a long time. Sella Italia did send me the brand new SLR carbon saddle, and that's crazy light. It's 120 grams and would be absolutely perfect for this event. But stupidly, I ordered a saddle that was too narrow. And so when I went out on it yesterday, it just wasn't supportive enough. And so I'm gonna have to get in touch with them and see if I can replace it with the slightly wider one. But in general, that saddle looked insane. They also have a 3D printed version of it, which I'd be really interested in trying as well. But for this event, because it's gonna be 10 hours, I'm just gonna use the tried and tested and the one that I know is comfortable, even if it's not the lightest. And then finally, to round it all out, I've got some carbon bottle cages from AliExpress. I think these were £11 for 2 of them, and they weigh like 13 grams each. So absolutely perfect for this build. And all in all, this bike weighs in at 6.4 kilos, by far the lightest bike that I've had, which is 400 grams under the UCI weight limit. Fortunately, this event is not run by the UCI, and so I don't need to conform to that rule, but that just goes to show how light this bike is. I think considering it's an Ultegra build, this is not an S-Works frame, it's the Pro frame, and a lot of the stuff on here is still stock. I think to get to that 6.4 kilos is pretty impressive. And actually, if I did a little bit more tweaking, I reckon I could get down to about 6.2 maybe, if not slightly lower. And so I think I'm at this point as ready as I can possibly be for this ride at the weekend. Honestly, it's gonna be mad, but I genuinely am looking forward to it because it's just nice to be out on the bike, to be climbing, to be out in the Peak District. It's going to be amazing. And I'm also really excited to ride this bike as well. I have done a couple of test rides on it, like I said, and I've really been enjoying the snappiness, the responsiveness, and just how it accelerates up a climb or out of a corner. And so it's going to be interesting to give it some proper testing at the weekend. But But anyway, I've not done one of these videos on the channel for a little while. I'm gonna hopefully be getting some more different bikes through from Sigma and from a couple of other brands. And so let me know down in the comments if you want me to make more of this kind of content. Let me know what you want to know. If there's things that I've missed, if there's things that you want me to go into more detail about, then let me know in the comments. And all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Cheers.